I guess
Hey,
before.
everybody. We're going to start over. We just did a quick intro over on Discord. Feel free to come join us on the Discord if you'd like. But we're going to be going over hybrid deforum, talking about some different techniques. And yeah, we're excited to kick this off. I'm joined by Level Bevel, who
What's
is
up? What's
a
up?
fantastic community member, extremely talented. And we are going to make some beautiful, beautiful video. We've seen so much out there in the people are making, and it's exciting stuff. And we get lots of questions in Run Diffusion about like doing things like style transfer, and there's lots of social media videos with zombies. And what were some of the other ones you were seeing out there, Level?
I mean, there's this whole trend now where like you have the real video and then it freeze frames, and then you have that really crazy camera turn, which is really
Mm-hmm.
like deforum using an init image. And then today somebody posted, I think Zana, I forget the name exactly, but
Xeno, yeah.
Zanium
Zanium.
posted about the beer commercial, and that to me, I don't know, that looks a little like maybe it's Imogen, maybe it's some weird like kind of text to video thing, not really a style transfer. Although it's possible to, like those flames and the weird bottles. Like I was looking at it, wasn't sure. And then of course like the Warp Fusion Mario video, which is really excellent and kind of inspired me to like break through the other day with this hybrid thing, because I feel like you can achieve that pretty well. If you really dial it in, you can probably get something very close to Warp Fusion using multi-control net and hybrid. So that's where we're at. It's going to be exciting to just unlock this for people, simply because it's like it's it's quite easy once you see it if you've messed around with hybrid, but it's also very easy to click one thing incorrectly and have it turn into total mush. So
Yeah, I will give that a caveat, Level Bevel, you're saying it's easy. I will say that if you are new to this, it is very hard. Like there's a lot of settings, even just like this interface that we're looking at here, automatic 1111. I'll increase the size a bit. I mean, this can be a really intimidating interface if you're going in through text to image. This is open source software, right? So it's designed for enthusiasts. It's not designed for just the people who like want a cool phone app and click one button and you get a neat result. This is for people who want that extra level of control, who really want to go deep into the systems, understand how it works. So it takes like a little bit of a different mentality to go through this. Hybrid is tough to dial in, I would say. And there's ways that you can like shortcut some of the testing, but I mean, you need to do the testing to kind of dial it in. And then once you find your sweet spot, you let it run and then you're able to go.
exactly. And then you
So,
set basically,
yeah.
once we get through the two things. One, I'm gonna kind of tout Run Diffusion, because not only it is difficult and it is for enthusiasts, but it's actually, if you don't have it running locally, or you don't have like a supercomputer with a 3080 or 4080 series graphics card, hopping on Run Diffusion is actually the cheapest way to get into this type of work. All of it is set up for you. You can use Invoke, you can use small servers, big servers. All the software is typically tested by a team that understands what they're doing. I don't work for Run Diffusion, but I'm
And we're not
obvious.
paying you.
I mean, you're not paying me, but clearly I love it and I'm here all the
Yeah.
time. So, but I really think in terms of affordability, it's the cheapest option after installing this locally. And I know a lot of people, like I even have it locally, and it becomes like a much more complicated venture to do so. So this is actually the easiest way to get into it if you're interested. So there's that, and then for hybrid, yeah, this is new grounds that we're about to break, I think.
Yeah, let's dive in. So first thing is this is a wider video, right? It's actually like very wide. We don't need to use all of that, but let's
Um,
let's
we can it'll work. I think we can just
yeah.
do with this 1024.
Okay.
And quickly, I'm just going to throw a little pro tip that I've noticed here. If people have been getting doubles of things, like two heads if you have a very
Mm.
tall video, or three heads if you have a very wide video, I think it's due to the fact that all these models have been trained on 1.5, which is 512 by 512.
Yeah.
So if you change your aspect ratio width and height in increments of 512, so if you have something, let's say 1024, 1025 will start moving more towards like doubling things. Now this doesn't really make a difference when you're running like a style transfer thing. This is just due to like if you're running text to image and text to video and deforum, and you start getting duplicates of things side by side or stacked. It's due
Yeah.
to the fact that things are, one, not in multiples of 512 and or further than that or below that. So think about it in the sense that it's been trained on 512, and ultimately, hopefully, things will be trained on wide and vertical aspect ratio, in which case we'll get rid of this whole doubling issue, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
getting there. I think there are some models that are more trained for different aspect ratios, trained for different things. Crystal Clear, like one that we've been using a lot, is like able to do incredibly wide photos and not have duplicates. It does depend on what it was trained on. We could try Crystal Clear here now, actually, and see
Yeah, that'd be great.
how it does for Deforum.
Shout outs to War Anakin.
Yeah, definitely making some incredible stuff on the model size there. So let's get these settings right. Are we going to keep height at 512?
Yeah, so this is basically 2 by 1. So if you had a vertical video, you'd
Hmm.
do 512 by 1024. If you like okay, sorry, just really correcting that. So if you don't have a super wide video, but it's just a regular kind of wide video, and you are starting to get weird doubles of things, you can do 960 by 512, and it's quite reliable.
Yeah.
But this seems to be very wide, so let's do 1024. And similarly with vertical, you can do 512 by 960, 512 by 832, and 512 by 1024. All of those kind of give you pretty good vertical results. And then if they're not exactly like your video, you can go back and kind of adjust them in post a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll start on a low number of steps. You can always change that later.
All this is
The key,
perfect.
the
Right.
key thing that you want to look at is, first we want to look at our video. We click more info like I did before. We see it's 25 FPS. It's
Right.
very important to get the FPS correct for the video, as it has a lot to do with smoothness of the actual output of it. So while you're
Absolutely.
setting the resolution, maybe go over here. Are we going to run it at 25?
Let's do it.
You could also run it at half if you wanted. But I think we're on a large box. We're going to run 25, do quick tests. It's a 35-second video, so we're good to go. Putting our name in as Laserman, and we're ready to move to some of the other ones. So
yeah, let's go one at a time, I guess. Go through keyframes. So this is always like, while things are loading, I'm switching this to 3D mode. Then we're
yep.
changing it to wrap instead of replicate.
I will
You know,
say, we've had some questions about 2D and 3D mode.
mm-hmm.
3D mode, you were telling me after that it came out after 2D, and it's actually just kind of better in
That's what I
all
look.
instances.
Maybe I'm wrong about that. Of course, human or hi there will correct me, but of course gladly. But I feel like I read somewhere that 3D does everything that 2D does, but better.
And
So it's
not only
not.
that, video input, you do not use this mode.
Yep. Nor
So like the
interpolation.
devs were saying, don't use it. Interpolation is prompt interpolation, so it's going
Mm-hmm.
from one prompt to another, but not for interpolating frames or video. So our recommendation, just stick to 3D every time.
Right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
probably
And just a
just
quick note on that: it takes a second to load up the 3D mod, like I guess preprocessor or processors in the background. So if it's hanging a little bit on the first time you try 3D, don't freak out.
don't stress. Yeah.
All right.
So we're not going to do a full deep dive into every setting here, because we've already done that in some of the other videos. We have a great docs section. If you go to learn.rundiffusion.com, and you can actually see there's a hybrid video, which this is a little bit old, but it goes over all the different settings. And then we have this Deforum one as well, where there's videos. There's the deep dive I did with Matt Wolf and some
Uh,
other things, tools as
just
well.
as much as I absolutely love and it changed my life, this video will be a little bit different because the settings have
It's a
changed.
little old, yeah,
Yeah.
but it does have like a good grasp of the fundamentals.
Correct. And it's also like a pivotal, amazing video. So can we just do quickly here? So cadence, cadence is basically how many frames are diffused. In this case, we're doing a style transfer hybrid video. So we're trying to basically diffuse every frame. You can play with this at your own leisure, but I think cadence 1 is the best way to go here, just so that you can see every frame being diffused from the video. If you want a video to be less diffused, the best thing to do is make the video 12 frames per second, bring it in, and still run cadence at 1. Does that make sense? If you allow Deforum to do not weird stuff, but if you allow Deforum to stretch out and interpolate the video, you're going to get a lot of layered frames, even though I love that name, but
Yeah,
regular
right.
frames.
Yeah.
So cadence 1, max frames. I would just say make it bigger than, just for safety, just make it 1,000 frames. Typically,
Yeah.
it'll only diffuse all the frames that have been broken
Or
apart.
when you put in a video, which we're going to do, it will just automatically ignore this field. So you don't really have to worry about it.
Hmm.
Um, I will also say if you want that like kind of staggered frame look, the saccades, the slower transitions between things, then you would do higher cadence. In this case, for full one-to-one style transfer, you need like one-to-one cadence. All right, let's dive into strength.
Yeah, so before we change anything here, let's just zero out your motion, because
Yep.
even both Revolved and I have done a million tests, or hundreds of tests, and sometimes we even forget to zero out the translation, and then you start getting weird effects on the hybrid transfer. And you're like, wait, what happened here? And typically it's because like you forgot to zero out the motion controls.
Yeah.
First, zero them out, get the video that you like, then start adding them back.
Yeah, and these are like lots of fun, but start with 0 when you're doing a video over. And I will also say that translation Z is 0 here. In 2D mode, you have to set it at 1, and if you don't, it screws up. So this is another reason, like just try to learn 3D. Don't bother learning 2D, don't bother learning video input. Focus on these. And then we can add some more fun stuff in later, like you were saying. But
Right on.
zeroing out to start. Now, strength is
Look,
really important. I just want
yeah.
to say one thing on this. So when you're putting a video into it, strength is also denoising. And that's like the image to image denoising. And when you're actually running a terminal, you'll see that when it's saying like denoising, it's the opposite of this. And what I mean is if I have a strength of 0.6 in the terminal while it's running, it will say denoising 0.4. So this is a really important relationship on this when you're putting a video in, because if you set this at 0.3, your denoising is 0.7. So it's a much easier way to think of that. The lower the strength is, the more denoising and the more your video will start to go into the style versus what the actual video is. So really important piece there. Sorry, go ahead, Level.
Yeah, just to add to that, just in very simple terms, if that seems confusing, it typically starts on a default of 0.65. And if you figure out, like if you test it a bunch, you'll realize that between 0.5 and 0.85 is a nice sweet spot. So on the 8.5 side, it's a lot closer to your video, and on the 0.5 side, it's starting to get a little more creative and a little more wild. So I think you should think about it in terms of very small increments. Clearly, you can do whatever you want, but I tend to use a range between 0.45 and 0.9 is that kind of nice sweet spot where 0.45 will start creating some really crazy generations. But then if you kind of schedule it back up, you can basically go from a really wild generation to a more kind of gelled look where you can move this noise around. So I think it's important to just note high strength here, closer to your video, low strength, more weird and more creative. But Revolved explained it more technically correct.
Yeah, it's not always the best way to communicate, but we'll roll with it. So the
That's it
denoising,
on this
I
one.
just think of that
Yeah.
because of image to image, right? So I'm like,
No, no,
oh,
you're correct. It's just
yeah,
even for me, like that, thinking about it like that. Okay, so yeah, no, everyone's ready to go. So one more setting here, coherence.
yeah.
This is one of these things where just do this and then learn about it later. But the main thing here is that it's trying to color correct each frame that you diffuse. And here we're going to put it on the video input. So it's just going to look at the video input frames and color correct each frame that it diffuses to that video.
And you want to do 10, we can maybe save some time by
Yeah.
putting it on 10.
There are a
Okay.
lot of other options, but you don't have to touch them here. But it's a really powerful section if you haven't messed with this part yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And some
Okay.
of these will be more control net related, so we don't really need to touch them. Okay, so the other options here, config, seed, subset. We don't need to adjust any of these. These
Really
are
not
just
at
like
all. Yeah.
fun stuff. You want to put some sprinkles on your cupcake, come down here and do
I love that.
that.
I always want to put sprinkles on my cupcake.
Exactly. All right.
DM me.
Let's go
Just
into
kidding.
prompts here.
Okay.
Okay. So what kind of style do you want to do here, Level?
I think let's go really, really simple just so that, and then add stuff. So let's put I think maybe let's approach prompts after we've
Okay,
inputted the
okay. Yeah,
video,
yep,
just so
yep.
that we
Let's get
have
this
like a
sorted out.
baseline for, yeah, here are the ingredients and this is what we want to make out of the ingredients. So we're kind of skip over the prompt thing and just jump to the video input. So right
Okay.
here, by default, you have use init strength 0, strength at 0.8. So again, 0.8, that means it's closer to 1, which means it's closer to the first, to your original input. And if you bring the strength all the way down, it's less like your input. And the thing is
Yeah.
here, this just applies for the init frame, the first frame of the video.
So what we want to do is we want it to match our existing strength here, because if we don't, then there will be a different frame at the start, and then it will slowly fade into the rest of our video. So it can be really useful if you're wanting to do like an init image and like make it that. But in our case, we have a whole video. We're not too concerned about the first frame. We just want to make sure it looks right like the rest of the video. So we're going to
Sure.
do 0.65. Did you want to lower this a bit, or
I
0.65?
don't want to mess with anything that we don't have to until
Yep.
we've run one test, and then we
Yep.
can go to town on it, just so that people
Okay.
don't have the least amount of, so people have the least amount of clicks to get to something good.
I confess I did not upload this video earlier, so we do have
Oh, no, no problem.
a little bit of a wait here, but I'm going to upload it now. It's not too bad. This is a quite a large video, but it's only 35 seconds, so it's just going to take a
Yeah.
second.
Um,
So in the file browser, I've created a little folder just called vids, and I'm going to put it in there. And now down here, I'm going to rename the video in a second because the name is just really long. I don't want to type it.
yep.
So I'm on Creators Club account here, which means I just access mount/private. If you're trying to do this on a shared server in the docs, there's a method to do that. It's a little like you can't upload giant videos into this. It's very limited. But in here, there's this image to image batch processing, and there's a shared storage servers section. And this is where you can upload like a little init video. You can use it for images or videos. And there's a walkthrough of how to do that and how you would have the file path done. So all you're doing in here is you're going to put that file path in there, vids for me, and then I'm going to name it laserman.mp4. So I'm
Yep.
going to here. What was this size wise? Just make sure it's the correct size. 71.2 looks good. So now hit the pencil, and we're just going to rename it
Laserman.
Laserman. Yes, Lucas, we are recording this. Let me confirm, but yes, recording. So you are good. We will post the recording in 2 separate videos later. All right. So back to here, we've got our Laserman ready to go. Mask, you can just ignore. And let's start on hybrid.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we'll control net, skip it for now. We'll get to it. But hybrid is really this tab that I learned about watching that Matt Wolf podcast that Revolved was on, and it changed my whole game. But up until a couple of days ago, we really didn't have the settings locked in exactly right. Plus, they've been updating, so it's going to be very exciting to use this correctly. And I want to see what everyone comes up with, because I think like once you have the settings right, it's just like sky's the limit. All right, cool. So hybrid settings, hybrid composite. I would just say don't have to get too deep here. Let's just do normal for now.
You will need to click generate input frames. This is not enabled by default, but this will create the frames on the first run. After the first run, you can just disable this, and then you don't need to create the input frames every time, as long as it's the same directory. So
Correct.
just keep that in mind. If you click this on and you're constantly changing directory, you're going to create a lot of unnecessary images that you'll have to clean up later. So just keep that in mind. Generate it first time. After that, ignore.
Okay, first frame as init image is selected by default, and this is a replicate of the init image tab where it says use init image. So go to that real quick just so we can explain what that is. So if you go to init, this thing right here where it says use init checkbox, it's basically the same thing. But what it does in hybrid is that it kind of tethers it to your input video, in which case you don't have to like create a separate initial image, upload it, and link it in this little section right here. But it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but don't click use init, because
Yeah,
then it will use this image, which you don't want. You want it to
correct.
use the first frame as init image. So you click it
Right.
there, and that strength thing will affect this. So just
One thing to note that I've been noticing, that once you load settings with all these things done and you've done a hybrid video, it will actually check that box for you if you load
okay.
the settings
Yeah.
by default. Okay, so first frame is init image. Now, what we used to do was click use init image as video, because I just didn't really understand what that was, but don't click it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the teaching
The
here.
wrong button.
All
Yeah.
right, so optical flow, let's use that for now.
And
Perspective and yeah.
nerd alert. Sorry. Optical flow is the idea of taking like the interpretation across multiple frames. And this is something that batch image to image does not have. So I don't know if anyone's seen the batch image to image video. Like, people noted that I was a little grumpy when I was doing the video, because I'm like, I don't know if I even like this method. There's going to be better stuff later. This is the better way to do it. Now, batch image to image can get like pretty precise, and there's going to be some tools that, with the control net and stuff, that will be able to do that. But I will say optical flow is like going to smartly use your video to create like smooth motion and style transfer. So,
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong here. Again, I know everyone's waiting for us to actually get this done, but it's important to talk about this for a moment. I wouldn't do that yet, just because we don't need to. If it, I think they all work simply because like we got the settings right. But again, it's up to, I want you to be able to, I don't want to like completely drive this, but just for
yeah,
now, like the
yeah,
least amount of changes, I guess. But I think the important thing here to note about optical flow is that I don't believe that it's actually doing anything if you do cadence 1. And if you're basically diffusing 1-to-1 every frame, I don't think there are in-between frames for it to optically flow. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I just feel like this button needs to be clicked to use hybrid, but I'm not sure if it's doing any optical flow. Maybe I'm wrong.
Could be. Yeah, there are
It'll
many,
only
many
do it
ways.
if you have cadence 2 or above, right? It needs to
Uh,
just have other frames to interpolate, but if there are no other frames in between to interpolate, I'm not sure it is doing anything except for making this this extension work. Anyway,
that makes
moving
sense.
on.
That could
Yeah.
make sense. That's a good theory.
Hi there,
So
correct me, please.
yeah, yeah. And there is other areas with this like flow that can cause problems, right? It can make the jello appear, it can make frames look weird. So we'll, if when we go to those, we'll talk about them. But for now,
Yeah. So
we'll just
optical
leave
flow,
this as
flow
is.
method, all of these work in different ways. I would say like DIS fine can give some really weird results, but with this setup, it should work fine.
Yeah.
Pun
Okay. So
unintended.
so
Okay,
count mass type, we want video depth.
so this is a really key point. So it seems like you'd be like, no, I want the depth map because it's actually breaking apart the images and creating a depth map. And this is where I was screwing up a lot. So if you don't think about it, you're like, okay, depth, and then everything goes blobby and weird. But video depth is like right there, but you don't typically think about clicking it. Anyway, I clicked it and that's what worked. So
Hmm.
essentially it's actually taking the depth of every frame of the video instead of the depth of every frame that's been diffused. And that's the difference between depth and so depth basically will diffuse the image and then create a depth map, and then your video gets all blobby and weird. Video depth pre-diffuses, basically pre-creates the depth map like ControlNet would, and then it starts to diffuse, and that's I think one of the biggest keys here. So,
Yeah. All right. Everyone get that? No. If anyone has any questions, feel free
ouch.
to ask. Sorry.
And also, please let me know if I'm loud enough or the
Or no,
audio is
you're loud and
recording.
clear. Like it's
Okay,
like
good.
it's like no variation.
So the
Um,
comp
comp
mask
mask. Yeah.
equalize does actually work, and I found out a way to make it work properly, but like we don't really need it to get the first generation, just because
Yep.
it overcomplicates and processes more time. So, okay, important here. So hybrid schedules, you can actually leave this to default, but the main thing here is the first field. At 0.5, it means it's taking a 50% of the diffused video or diffused frame and taking 50% of your original frame.
Yep.
That's the main
Alpha
thing. Yeah.
alpha stands for like transparency in video. So this is how transparent is your style, basically, like how much of the video is coming through. And if
Yeah.
you put this really high, correct me if I'm wrong. Now
Yeah.
I'm overthinking it, but putting it really high will make more of the input video come through, and putting it very low will mean like barely any of the input video is coming
Yeah.
through.
So like that guy in general that looks like a clay tree, that's like 0.25. But if you want it to really look a lot like your video, you can put it up at like 0.7. Again,
Let's take a
there's a
quick
nice
look
balance
at
between this and strength.
the weird one. Hold on. And I will say, like, the well, got to turn off the sound here. But so this is an
It's
example
not
of
coming through. Yeah. Okay.
of what we're looking for. Like, there's a very smooth style transfer, right? It's creating this really interesting visual. It's changing slightly, but it's like quite stable and nice. So this is a really excellent example of it. And
And
yep,
what's good about it is that it was very quick to set up. Like a video like that, when we were testing for weeks now, it's been so difficult to get this very nice consistency. That was like my second try on that video, with like a very simple prompt, and it just kind of looks like insane. To me, this is the type of control that I was looking for.
yep. So this 0.5 comp alpha schedule, like the default setting, this setting is really the only one to touch here. These are all like very advanced settings that do not come in very often, and if you touch them, it will mess stuff up. So just looking at this first one is important. You can experiment with others if you want, but just keep that in mind. This and strength, comp alpha
Right.
schedule and strength, are the two most important settings in hybrid. Think of those as like your only controls, because you've got what's the denoising and what's the transparency. And the two of those things together are what's going to make the hybrid video. So
Yeah. Quite.
if you take anything out of this, just think like, I only want to change those two.
Exactly. To summarize that again in kind of in pedestrian language, it's just the same thing. So if you have your strength at 0.65, it's closer to the video. Lower strength, less like the video. Here, same thing. Lower is more creative. Higher is more like your original input. But dialing them in together is what's going to get you that kind of like really clean line and more consistency. So that's the interplay between comp alpha schedule and strength scheduling.
Yep. Okay, great. So we've got these hybrid settings. Good.
That's it. Now, your output is correct. You set the frame per
25.
seconds. Yep.
Just a quick note, upscale is currently not working for our servers. It's something with our cloud directories. We are working with Deforum to fix this in another version. So just keep that in mind. We will auto delete images when video is ready. This keeps the space saved.
Hey, Pixel. What's going
Pixels
on?
there. No need for soundtrack. Okay, so there are some other things here. Again, we do not do frame interpolation, video upscaling, so you can just leave those off. You don't need to touch those. Are we ready to hit generate? I think we are, right?
No, because we missed the prompt.
You know,
just
it's just
a
a
just a
prompt.
little thing. Just
All
a little
right, all right,
thing.
all right. Clearly, I put the prompt in first, so this is like a little
Well,
bit.
that's why I wanted us to kind of the important thing here is like it's tempting to do the prompt first, but kind of you need to see your input video. You kind of need to set it up first and be like, all right, here are like my mise en place, as they say in culinary school. You put all your little ingredients on the counter and you look at them, and then you decide kind of like how you're going to put them all together. So this is where we're doing the prompt recipe.
Okay.
So my suggestion here is we got a guy turn their heads to the right or left or whatever with the laser going across.
Oh,
I think let's think about it in terms of maybe get audience community suggestions as to what you want this person to look like.
yeah.
I typically don't care much about celebrity culture or like, Hollywood stuff, but recently I've been like, all right, let's do Tony Stark or Captain America just because it's what people resonate with. So if we want to try like maybe changing this guy's face to like a celebrity face and people want to throw in a name in the chat so we can engage the community, I'd be happy.
Or
It's
get
pretty
weird.
easy.
We don't need to do celebrity. We can get weird, but we will take the first suggestion that appears. So
Totally. Yeah.
whatever that may be.
There we
Popeye.
go. Great.
Popeye. All right, love it. All right, so the Popeye is
Yeah, so let's do Popeye. Let's do
Sailor Man.
the Sailor Man, right? Cartoon.
Cartoon.
And I would
I
probably describe
oh,
Popeye, if I'm being
yeah.
honest. I would do like
Big
roided
chin,
out sailor, roided out sailor with
big
giant
big
forearms and an anchor
chin,
tent, anchor tattoo.
winking eye, sailor hat.
Over
I
oversized pecs, oversized
well, it's just
pecs.
a
No,
face.
not pecs. His
It's just
arms are like huge though, aren't they? Like when he has
muscles.
spinach.
Yeah, but it's just we're just doing the face.
Oh, that's true. Right.
Uh, spinach tattoo.
Totally. Early
But this
spinach
is just his
tattoo.
face. I don't know.
Right. It's just his face. So yeah, I think it'll get it. So let's do. Let's close the quotes there, and then I
Negative.
think let's just run it. Let's just run this because
Just
I
run it.
actually was
Okay.
I was noticing some stuff yesterday. Negative prompts really change a lot of things, and sometimes it kind of works against you. And so I've
Mhm.
been actually kind of changing my workflow to not immediately throw in my negative prompt because it takes things into a certain direction. So I think it's important to maybe just check the first prompt without anything and then later add positive negative, even though
Yeah, I will
yeah.
say that negative prompts work really well in 2.1, but they don't work that well in 1.5. So you do see like these giant loaded up negative things in a lot of 1.5 ones. And I will say there's a little bit of cargo cult going on there of like people, you know, adding Eye of Newt and Leg of Frog to their potion. Um, yes, Sparkling Deforum does work with 2.1 and it's great. Um, I haven't had any issues with it. Of course, like ControlNet and stuff won't work with it, but yes, it does.
I think we're
So
ready to hit generate.
I did. It's
Generate.
processing. It's
Oh, there we go.
processing. Yeah, it's
Sorry,
just taking
I
its
was
sweet time.
looking at the
So it's
chat.
got to download some models. It's got to do some like video depth stuff. So it does take a little time. And in the meantime, maybe we can spin
Well,
up
but
another one.
um, right before that, just let's show people what's happening in the folder structure because this
Yeah.
looks like nothing is happening. By the way, y'all, I like even for me, I'm like, wait, is something really happening? And I always have to go. Oh, wow, you have a lot of
Oh my
tests.
God, I haven't cleaned up.
Jesus Christ, clean up
Sorry,
your room,
sorry. I'm
Revolve.
sorry.
Clean up your damn shit.
All
Yeah.
right, all
So
right. So you can hit this, of course, to look at it in different
mhm,
ways, and now
mhm.
go last modified here.
There
So
you
there's
go.
our laser
Yep.
man, right? I'm just gonna, yeah, pretty much just get rid of all this stuff. I think I can just get rid of it. What was it? What did I want to keep? That and that. Okay.
All right. Cool.
So just deleting that, and then we go into laser man, and here you can see it's created the input frames. So it's loading our video in as frames, right? Here's our laser man. And it's got the, oh, I didn't delete those. Hold on. Where's the laser man? Laser man. And it's got the hybrid frames.
I think it's a long video, so it's probably still breaking it apart.
Yep.
But what I yeah.
What were you going to say?
No, I was gonna say like when you were back at that other screen, once you're in it, you can just switch the view back to thumbnail view so we can see all of them being generated. Yeah. It's just a little easier to see it. Yeah.
It's still
So
going here. Yeah.
yeah, so what's happening right now is your front end, your Auto 11 interface looks like nothing is happening, right? Let's go back to RD.
Oh, now it
Uh,
started doing
yeah,
something. So it just finished the input frames. Oh
there
my
we go.
God.
This
Uh,
already is better than anything we were getting. Like it's just immediately understanding that there's an outline, right? Because it's
mhm.
producing a proper depth map now from video input depth, which is just like so stupid, but it's I just wasn't clicking it. And if you click it, it works. And if you actually don't, if you get rid of that init image as video as well, which again, I was clicking just because of hive mind. So yeah, so here we go. So now it's basically it starts to kind of bring in Popeye. You see, right? The first few
Mhm,
frames
mhm.
are like, what the heck is going on? And then all of a sudden you start getting consistency. And what's great about it is like this type of kind of consistency is where you dial in that strength and where you start to dial in the kind of float comp mask alpha. So there's a nice dance that you have to play with each type of thing that you're doing. So what's nice here is we have a very clean video to work with. And therefore you're getting an excellent depth map out of every single frame. If you have a hand in front of the face, I think it starts to get a little wonky. And that's where ControlNet will come into play, where open pose and canny and all these things come into play. But this is creepy. I mean, pure nightmare fuel, but super fun.
Oh, Lordy. Yep. Pretty great. Pretty great. Gotta say. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
So
Very,
think there are no positives, no negative prompts here. We don't really have style. We didn't put like cartoon or anime, and we're also using crystal clear. So different models produce drastically different results. Different style prompts produce different results. Of course, embeddings, VAEs, etc. So you can do the same exact setup that we have, swap the model to something like Dreamlike or Protogen, and it'll be radically different. Before you change all the settings, I would recommend doing that. Just jump through a couple of models with exactly the same settings and see how drastic it can be. Because what'll happen, what I've noticed in Revolve, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were playing with models where you really have to push the strength in order to see what the model does. And some where it's overly opinionated and you have to really pull it back towards the original video to make it look anything consistent. So
yep, definitely it depends on the model. Yeah, it can be very different depending on how it's trained. And think about it like when you're training, some of them you need to use a trigger word to make it come out. Other ones, like, you don't need to use a trigger word at all. It just like all will immediately come through in the model. So just keep that in mind that, yeah, some of them will be stronger, some of them won't. Should we do another video here? I'm feeling like we should spin up another one. This one looks
spin
like
up a
it's
snazzy
good.
one.
I mean, what you could do in this situation is if this hadn't turned out like we wanted, we would interrupt it.
Mm-hmm.
We would go back, we'd change some settings, and then we would run it again. And this way you're not like wasting time. This won't take an hour. It'll probably go like, well, it's a 35-second video. I don't know.
Let's let it run for like maybe 50% of it and then hit interrupt just so you can kind of see a result. I just want to add one quick thing here, which is goodness, it escaped me. I'll think of it again. I think like it'll come to me. I had something important to say, but it's gone.
Sparkling just had a great question in the Discord, which is, can you add LoRa's and embeddings? You can, and it's amazing. So this is something we found out on stream, actually, out on community day. We tried it out because I had trained an embedding and used it, and then we used it in an image, and it looked incredible. Just looked awesome. Sorry, not in an image, in a video. So embeddings work wonderfully in here. They can really add like a lot of variety though. So like it will make your frames more chaotic, and it may make it so the style transfer isn't as consistent. But just keep in mind, you can get some completely wild stuff. In order to do that, it's really simple. So you would just basically go to the text to image tab, go down here, click to LoRa's or textual inversion. This is the one I made for community, Creators Club community based on Airbrush. So you would just take this one, cut, and then go back over to Deforum and yeah, literally just pop it in like that, and away you go.
I remembered what I was going to say. It's a small thing, but what's great about hybrid video versus like image to image batch is that right now it's doing all this work, like creating a depth map, creating all the frames, diffusing them, but it's also going to stitch together a video for you. So that's a huge part of why like ControlNet with batch to batch is such a pain, because there isn't like this one-to-one process where you like can just hit generate and then you're gonna get a video no matter what happens. So right here we could interrupt it and it will stitch together the pre-diffused frames and already create a video for you, and that actually, it just helps workflow by a lot.
He's got a pipe growing out of his head.
He's just love it.
Oh, it's disturbing.
But I think it's important to note here. Do y'all see this lighting setup where you have half the face lit,
Mm-hmm.
where there was a discussion going on a few weeks back about lighting and bringing in consistent lighting rigs. This is a way to do it with video, right? Like if you film
Yeah.
yourself with one spotlight or a 3-point lighting setup or an overhead or an underlight, you just bring in any video of yourself from an iPhone similarly shot like this guy. I mean, yeah, look, this is shot with a very good camera and a nice setup, but like it's pretty easy to do it.
Now I was thinking about this is like you could use a technique with ControlNet. You could use like a lighting technique like this, where you've got like a video of a light, and then you could control net it in. And I did something similar to this in one of our YouTube videos where I will pull it up. I took that video that we were looking at earlier, and I added in um, this is I just cut out Mando and put him on the bike, right? Like it's
I
very
love, but
simple,
this is
very
one of the
simple
coolest
hack.
things I've seen. I gotta say, this look how, I mean, super
But
nerdy
this
and
is
creative though.
but this is like just what I started. This was my source video for the hybrid, right? So I took that and then I just did a hybrid video on top of it. And now it's like a little bit more dynamic. There's like, beasts and lasers and spaceships and stuff going on. So um, you can start to do things that you've done in text to image, like photo bashing with
Hmm.
video now. You
I
give
mean,
it
you could
enough
take,
juice
yeah.
of the context and the content to like add that in. So you could do this with lighting, you could do this with characters, you can do this with a whole bunch of stuff. And it's really just starting to open up that like technique for adding things in. So very fun. Um, I almost like, should we just well, I
Um,
kind of
I,
want to see the head turn. I
yeah,
do want
let's
to
do
see
the
the head
head turn. So
turn.
let's run
Yeah.
session 2 here.
Yeah.
What I
Oh
was
my
going to say
gosh.
about the
This is just
Mando thing,
yeah.
like think about it. You could take like Revolved is using their video synth video, right? But you could theoretically take a video from your car window or from your dashboard, get like road going by, buildings going by, like a just a video, like a whatever, what do they call it, a dashboard cam type shot, and then put Mando in it on the road and then diffuse it. And you're going to get a way more like accurate, like,
Mhm.
motorcycle on a road or car on a road with like any character you want. So
Mhm.
very,
Good
very
point.
lots of potential with that technique.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna try out something. Now, this is kind of funny because I've been testing ControlNet in Deforum. I've been testing it locally and gotten some really great results. Um, and then
Uh,
Level Bevel was like saying it's working.
I think it is working. I think it's worth just doing like do whatever setup you want based on hybrid right now. But
Okay,
then let's
okay.
just add Canny to it. And if Canny doesn't work, then let's give up. But I actually got a bunch of these running. In fact, like the video we just looked at with the guy, that's done on Run Diffusion with Canny and hybrid.
Amazing.
So
So we were having some problems with ControlNet earlier, but maybe it was just the settings weren't right. Now, this is one of the things with ControlNet is, you're thinking about it with like text to image. You just pop a ControlNet on, it looks amazing, right? Um, oh, Misa, I think you were asking about this technique as well. So the control net itself is only half of it because getting that video in is the other half. And so you have to master the hybrid video technique first. It helps a lot with the actual control net technique, is what I've seen. But I haven't tested it that much on Run Diffusion yet. So I think that there's a lot of potential here. So let's
I
see what
think
we
you're
get.
right.
It's exciting. We're
Yeah,
going into new territory. We're going
I
to
love
try
it.
it. This is the effort. We're doing it live. It may fail, but we're glad to have you here with us trying this stuff out on the edge of
The
technology.
edge.
The
Um,
edge. Yeah.
what I was going to say is like, yeah, you're right in your assessment here because we're trying ControlNet video input by itself without hybrid. I tried a lot of that and it just basically starts to do it correctly for about 10 to 20 frames. And then it starts to get wobbly and weird. And there aren't enough settings in ControlNet Deforum, this tab right here, to actually really dial it in correctly. So in a way, at least right now, if you're on Run Diffusion, and you want to try and get it working, you have to do it with hybrid video. I assume, and again, not to know what the devs are doing, but I imagine that you should be able to ultimately do ControlNet without hybrid video, right? It should be its own thing. But right now, the only results that I could get working are hybrid video because it has a depth map and a flow. But then ControlNet will help it get the mouth and the eyes because it can do like all the other stuff, the preprocessors. So
Yeah, there are some issues here. If you see this, like it's saying, use certain control net models for this. We do not have the full precision ones, so that could be causing the issue. But there's other things as well. So in the local one, I'm working with the Deforum devs to get the latest update to have control net, but it is not working in the latest update yet. So big caveats, lots of asterisks. This is your mileage may vary. Try at your own risk. We probably don't know enough to support you in this area, but we're going to try it because people want it. We want to give you some fun stuff. And, just looking at the hybrid alone, like you can do a lot with this, right? You don't necessarily need that much more, but I will say that it is
correct.
super fun. Um, Using it locally, it's been super fun. So I'm very excited when it will be in here.
Can
Let's
we
get
um,
let's get it
can we
rolling.
just close the file browser for a moment so we can
Oh yeah.
maximize screen?
We
And
do need
then,
a video though.
yeah, in this case, let's just, this is your call. I just wanted to use that one just for the first test, but I also
Okay,
don't
well
want to,
let's
I don't want
use
to be a total
the
Bogart.
gal. Let's use the
Hmm.
gal that I test on it normally
The
here.
Gal Gadot, the Gal Diffuse.
Yeah.
Sorry, terrible. It's too
No, no.
early.
Uh,
um,
Mount slash private slash vid slash eyes open dot mp4. Okay.
let's look at that video just so we get the.
Yep. Oh, I guess I can just use this. Vids. So here's the video,
Ultimately,
10
while you're,
seconds.
yeah. Great. So this is something where it's not super duper wide, where this could be something like 960 by 512. It
Yeah.
actually should be 960 by 540. But so you know, I've tried that. 540 tends to break
Mm-hmm.
a lot. It'll throw you a bunch of errors. It loves 512 and then kind of like ratios that go with it. So but if you want to try it exactly, it is 960 by 540, which was essentially half of 1920 by 1080. So you're working at multiples of, of 4K, 2K, etc.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so my VAE didn't load there. I think I have to readjust it. I'm going to try using this VAE with clip skip 2. Okay, and there's if people want to get those settings, it's in the docs. All right, so we've got our width. We're going to do 25 steps again. I've got my string here. The video itself is, I believe it's 24. Let's see, 24. So output, I'm going to set 24 frames. And we're doing 3D mode. We're doing cadence 1. We're doing wrap. Max frames we can leave. All right, what do you recommend for strength? I'm going to zero out the movement.
Zero out our motion. I guess here it would be interesting, like if we want to make it look more like her, let's pull this up to like 7.5 or 8.5 even. And pro tip, future pro tip, this is something that you can actually schedule and use like an oscillator or a modulator here in the strength to kind of pull in a lot of changes and then to ease up on the gas pedal. So there's a ton of potential in this one field to change everything about your generation, just giving you kind of a future insight. Like if you're thinking that as a pro user or as a beginner, there's a lot of stuff going on with this one little slider or input field. So here we're trying to get it a little bit more like the original video. So let's pull up from the default 6.5 to 7.2, as you put it.
Coherence, we want to put this in video input, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same
Yep.
situation. And these are, we'll leave the sprinkles as
Yep.
is. Okay, so now we've got the init video in there. The control net.
Okay, so I started, like again, your total wild card here. So just I'm just kidding. Yeah, so the idea here is like I've only tested Canny and
Let's do Canny.
segmentation and open pose, but Canny tends to work, and Canny basically would just get a nice line drawing of the input frame. And so
Yep.
you're doing line drawing from canny, and then you're doing depth from hybrid. And so you could run depth from ControlNet, but hybrid, I think, actually is a little bit faster. Maybe because, no, I don't think it's faster. I just think it's doing a very consistent job of it. So you don't need to run a depth ControlNet, which will add another layer of processing. So that's why
Mhm.
it's nice to use ControlNet for the canny line art here, and then depth is being created by the hybrid tab.
Yep. Okay, so I'm putting in the path here, ControlNet input video path.
I
We're
highly
gonna
recommend this, y'all. Just, I'm sorry if I keep interrupting, but I just want to make a note about the video. I've noticed that you can drag and drop a file in there, but it's
do
not
not
reliable.
do not do it.
Do not do that.
And that goes for like a lot of extensions, like where they'll just be like, just drag and drop. We are a cloud service. So a lot of times when you drag and drop into an extension that someone else has developed, it will just go like, look at your C drive and try to reference it, and it won't work. It won't upload. It won't download. Doesn't know where to put the file. So just like if you see these drop files, they actually removed them from the latest version of Deforum Controlnet, which is great. But just keep that in mind in any extensions. Okay. So we've got that in there. We're going to leave these as all default. I will, however, switch this to just resize.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's go to the hybrid video settings. We're going to go normal again. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to go generate input frames. We're going to go optical flow. We'll leave it at medium. And we'll do video depth. Coming down here to hybrid schedule. So you see, it's like, it's very intimidating at first, but once you get it, you know what works. You just like can kind of roll through it. Now here, comp alpha schedule. Let's lower it a bit.
So this is cool because what's going to happen here is that the mix of the diffuse frame is going to be very creative. Like what it diffuses is going to be very creative, but because we pulled up the noise earlier, or sorry, the strength to 7, it's going to be a lot locked a little more to the original video. Not so much because like you can push it up to like 0.9 and lower it to 0.15 in hybrid and get this kind of weird dance between it. But I think it's just really important to note that it's the dance between those two values.
Yep. Now I'm going to pull in an interesting prompt here. Are you ready? I don't think you're ready for this, Jelly. Okay. We're going to just pull in a prompt from Civitai, which I opened on another screen because you cannot open Civitai on a live stream. Anyways, you can see here we've got this lovely lady that I'm sure you all recognize by now because she's everywhere. So we're going to maybe change this a bit. Let's take out Senna, Tetsuki. Let's take out all this like random character stuff. Don't really care about. No offense, League of Legends players, but I am not toxic. Okay, so now we will. Oh, Octopus Goddess can just get out of there. Like, no, thank you. So let's swords. I mean, Stable Diffusion just sucks at swords right now. Anyways, let's put in instead 37-year-old woman and try to get some variance
I
to
love
it.
that. Thank you for doing that.
And let's do,
Again, everybody posting, like, I've been trying to kind of get more like adults in the prompts, like, so it actually helps if you want to, instead of saying adult woman, you actually type in an age or man or anybody in between. 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old actually works pretty well, interestingly. That's just for me. Everybody else can do what they want. And then Sparkling says negative prompts work with # neg or -- neg. They do both. So you could put just negative prompts in here, but then if you load the settings, it'll actually put this whole negative prompt in the main prompt window and do -- neg and put this whole thing in there. So it's just really a visual thing over here.
yep.
Also, I figured it out, Revolved. I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but I figured it out. So positive prompt here, prompts positive, even though it's the second field, it actually is the first field. So when you load settings, it will load prompts
Oh, yeah,
positive,
yeah.
then your upper window, then -- neg.
Okay, okay, got it. So that means anything you put in here will have more emphasis.
Yes,
Which is
that's why we were
important.
having that
Yeah.
trouble. Like, yeah. Well, not
Yep.
treble. I think, remember, I'd wanted to do that with the character face turn, and that was the right inclination.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's try this. I mean, I'm interested to see how this turns out. We want to get like a little bit of a certain look. So let's see if we can get that going. All right, so we've got the init, we've got the control net, we've got the hybrid, we've got the output. I think we're ready to click button. What do you think?
I think so.
Okay,
Boom. Let's
now
take a look
what's
at
going on with
Popeye.
Popeye
All right.
over here?
So I think, yeah, it's
20 minutes.
probably worth interrupting this so we can try a different style or different
I
whatever on
just
this
want to
one.
check. Whoops. Just want to check that Popeye, our laser man, has turned his head. He's in the shadow. Whoa. All right. Well, let's call it good enough here, I think, for the sake of this video.
I think so.
Um,
We can run the same exact setup, but change the sliders or change the
yeah.
model or change the style, any number of things.
Okay. So interrupting. Hello. It'll take a second to recognize as it finishes up what it's doing.
Two things are happening if you have the settings. It's basically trying to stitch the video together right now, and it's also trying to delete the files from the server.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we've got it. And let's click here to show video. It'll take a while to load it in the RAM, especially for larger videos. All right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the pipe off of his head.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a laser.
I mean, it's a hot mess of nightmare fuel, but it's accurate to the video.
Yeah, so the laser in this case is actually not very helpful because we're trying to get a
Correct.
clean style transfer. So it would be more useful if we were trying to do like something more wild and artistic. But in this case, it's kind of like messing it up, right?
Okay,
But that's
uh,
fine.
let's try this with just to prove kind of to proof of concept the idea that we were talking about, the dance between strength and comp alpha. Let's
Yeah.
push this towards the original video and run, like, I don't know, 100 frames of it.
Okay, okay. So for strength, we'll go down to what, 3.5, 4.5?
No, I think more like your video. So let's
Oh,
do like
more like it.
let's do like
7.
8.5 and then like 7 on comp
Hybrid
alpha.
7. Okay.
Yeah, just to see if this is what, this is what we're telling people happens. I feel like it'll look a lot more like the original video if we do that, and
All
then
right,
we can yeah, go ahead.
but we're gonna do Roman god marbling art.
Sorry to be a Debbie, but maybe we should keep it the same just to show exactly what happens.
Okay, okay.
Sorry.
I know I wanted to use an embedding,
Let's
got me
do it
all
on a
excited.
different tab. I just think it's
Yeah, yeah,
important to see like Popeye with like exact same thing with
yeah.
just the slider changed. I'm
All
sorry to do
right,
that
for
way. Yeah.
science
For
level,
science, thank
we'll do
you.
it for science.
Thanks
All
for
right.
indulging me.
Yeah, no problem. Any questions out there? We good? Oh, we got questions on YouTube. Okay.
Oh, okay.
What does 0 represent on JSON? So yeah, someone already answered in chat, which is great, but it is the frame number. So you can schedule in frames. If we wanted to, we would just add in here, frame 100, put in the quotes around it, etc. But that is how we would then use that keyframe to specify things. When it's 0, we're just specifying keyframe 0 is going to apply the entire video, meaning our prompt will take across the entire video. So this is just basic Deforum stuff that runs in here. Since we're doing a style transfer, we're not concerned about changing things very much. We're just trying to get Popeye. If we wanted to have him eating spinach, looking like one of those horrifying beer commercials, we could do that through the prompt by specifying it at a later keyframe. Maybe when he's turning his head, shove a bunch of
Do
spinach.
it, at 7 frames, right? He's turning his head. It's like 7, because that won't change our original thing, right? At 0, sorry.
No, it's not 7 frames. It's going to be like way in there because
No,
we've
I mean
got
7 seconds times 25. So
25.
it's like at 250 frames in the prompt, you want to change it to eating spinach, let's say.
Okay.
But
So
also just copy the first line just to show people the easy way. Like, you're a
oh
genius
yeah,
when
yeah,
it
yeah,
comes
yeah,
to
yeah.
writing things out, but not everybody is.
All right. Sorry. So yeah, you just copy it And then you
Make sure you
go
have a comma after the first one, and then make that
250.
250. Yep.
Put in 1 comma here. You don't want to put a comma here, otherwise you'll get an error. I know,
Correct.
Jason things. All right, so now we want to do eating spinach.
Right.
Out by the Sailor Man. Okay.
Let me just throw one thing about the zero frame thing. It's quite important because I noticed a bunch of people asking about it and getting errors. This zero frame thing is not only just prompting, it's for everything. If you're using like Parsec or frame like an oscillator thing and you're pasting in formulas and you're pasting in disco strings into any field in Deforum, you need a zero frame. If you're getting errors, it's because you probably started on frame 10 or frame 1 or by accident or something like that. But always check that you have a 0th frame, and that helps avoid any problems.
Okay, cool. So let's see here. We've got slightly more realistic Popeye coming in here. Laserman 2. When I say more realistic, I mean less cartoony, right? So you can
And
see
closer to the original. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so the comp alpha mask is bringing the transparency out. So you see his hair, right? Before he had a hat, now you can see his hair because we've just like brought it a little closer to the actual video that we input here. So it was a good idea to do science, of course. I don't know why he's frowning. I guess that's a Popeye thing that he's angry all the time. But
I've actually noticed yesterday I was running like a bunch of those tests with Synthesia and Thanos and trying to get them to lip sync. I think mouth is really not there yet.
yeah, it's probably like hands, right?
Yeah, I was even I tried like media pipe face. I tried open pose head. I tried a bunch of stuff last night locally, and mouth is really hard to diffuse. I don't think we
Yeah.
have enough resolution yet. I think when we're trained on 1024, it's going to be able to diffuse the shape of a mouth and the depth of a mouth and get that more accurate. Otherwise, it's like a real crapshoot.
Okay. All right, now this is coming along. Looks like very close to the original video. Does not look like the
Let's see.
prompts.
Let's see in the folder
Yeah,
structure
yeah,
because
this
I
could just be the first frame. Actually, I didn't change the image in it. So the original image, I'm just realizing now, for the next one, we'll probably want to change it. It's not that far off, but
no, it's not too bad.
so.
Also, it slides from 0.8 to 0.6 real quick, like within 3 frames. So
Yeah. So yeah, let's take a look in here at this video and see what we get. Okay. Oh, the card art came out like she has a card. I get it. Ha 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 ha. That's
this is
entertaining.
great, though. Look at the consistency is amazing.
It is, but I'm like kind of disappointed that I mean it's the consistency is good, but in this model, like her face is like kind of overtrained into the model. So
Sure.
yeah,
This is
I
where
like the
that's out
skull
of my
earring though.
depth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is like something that's actually funny. Like now that I'm thinking about this, you could overtrain a model to get more consistency out of Deforum, which is hilarious.
Show the folder up there a little bit quickly. So this is because Revolve set it up with Controlnet, so it's both hybrid and Controlnet. So it's creating a lot of images to
Yeah.
get set in. It's almost duplicating it, right? Controlnet creates its own set of images, and hybrid creates its own set of input images, and they both need to exist in order for the technique to go through.
Yeah. So a lot of images, but it's looking good.
Show the depth. Do you mind showing the depth map?
Got 1 minute. We might as well wait. Oh yeah.
Same folder. Yeah. So interestingly, if you have input frames, right, that's from hybrid, and then go, yep, and then there you go. So this should be, yeah, there we go. So these depth maps are very similar, obviously, to any Python script that creates depth maps and After Effects and all that stuff. But what's cool about hybrid is that without ControlNet, you get to create these very clean and savable depth maps from the original video in the same process as diffusing and generating a video at the same time. It so much makes the workflow more fun and easy to do than to do this in like batches of images that you have to import and compile and break apart. It's like it adds so much more to every generation. So what is actually interesting here is that even though ControlNet is creating a canny model, it's not saving those frames. So
Mhm.
ControlNet in the background is actually creating a red line, like a line art version of all these frames, like a canny preprocessed of this, but then it's diffusing it immediately and creating the generation. So it's not
I would,
a you're
yeah.
yeah.
I would say these depth maps are like not great, right? Like you wonder why
That's
the
what the
mouth isn't working. It's like
that's
you
the
can
comp
barely see anything, you know.
that's the comp mask equalize thing.
Yeah, so we can like adjust that, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
get it. It does seem that her hair runs out of dye eventually, which is kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Goes from purple to blonde, which again I think is just due to overtraining in the model. No
Sure.
offense to Rev Animated, but let's take a look.
And also, I'm
Oh, it
not checking
starts
YouTube,
blonde.
so
It starts blonde and then changes over to purple. Okay,
oh, but look
okay.
at that. I mean, look, this is a huge jump
Consistency is
forward.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
crazy.
So, technique for this would be to uh, deflicker it. Will add a lot to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like.
Deflicker, for anybody who doesn't know, is a DaVinci Resolve, and you need the full license for it. It's about $300, and then you just bring in the MP4 or MOV, and you add the effect called deflicker, and it basically makes this way more consistent. And you can add like one or two or three deflickers to make it. It actually washes out the frames a lot, but it basically makes everything as consistent as possible.
So one thing with this is the prompt creator added in the most ridiculous brackets everywhere. So these brackets will mean that it takes precedence over things. So for example, masterpiece, Pixiv contest winner, these are taking over the prompt and making it so it's more important than like having consistent purple hair, for example. So what we can do here is, and I'm going to take this and say style on the end. And 37. Try to get a little different culture in there rather than the anime white girl. I mean, not, people are going to make whatever they make. We won't give this random Civitai person too hard a time. All right, so I mean, the Rev animated model does do some really cool stuff, so that's why we're using it. So let's see here. What else can we make it Indian? We just got a request. Yes, we'll try. Let's see if we can make the model conform to that. So in order to do that, we're going to put in those extra brackets to give it a little extra weight. And we took the
I,
cards out. I think, oh, yeah,
can
I
I
think this,
recommend maybe getting rid of 3D in the negative prompts? I don't know why that would really make it better or worse. I
yeah,
think it
wait,
might.
we kind of want
Yeah,
anime and
yeah.
we've got canny, we like sketches, like this
I
is all good
swear I
stuff.
changed my stance on it literally yesterday. I was like, man, I think my negative prompts are affecting this negatively.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Like not
totally.
in the way I want them to, like way they're counteracting some of the stuff I want to happen. And I think like, yeah, it's pretty important to not just copy pasta everything.
Yeah, and it does give good results to get copy pasta, and like you can get like this consistency and stuff is fantastic. Let's try another one, but okay, so we got
What's up,
good
Xanium?
results.
Xanium says, where do you get the video path from, Revolved?
Yeah, so we did go over that. Xanium, I don't know if you're running it locally or on Run Diffusion. If it's running locally, you can just right click copy path. If you're here, this is a creators club path, and the other path is here. If you go to learn.run diffusion, look at our image batch section, and it will tell you how to do it on short storage. So, all right. What else? Oh, yeah, strength. So this is the thing. Every time I'm going through this, I'm like, what do I want to modify on strength? I want it to get a little bit more creative here. I'm going to bring it down to 6.5.
Let's do
I
that. And
Hybrid
then,
video
yeah.
here is like pretty low, right? This is where we have the full consistent
Well,
style transfer. There's none of the original video shining through.
mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
think I think we kind of nailed it with this video. I love the background with the trees. I don't know why it's like turning, which is funny.
Well, I
Um,
think that's because I'll tell you what's happening. Canny is doing a lot to keep the eyes, nose, and mouth in the right place, but what was
maybe
it?
in the prompt.
The size of the depth map changes a little bit, and the depth map, because like you mentioned, is not very accurate to all the little individual details. The head looks bigger and smaller, and so what happens is the diffusion tries to like morphs the head, makes it a little smaller, a little bigger, and it looks like she's wobbling back and forth, even though she's not. It's
This is very, very consistent with the control net, which is great. I will say, if anything changes, notice her eyes are like brown, then blue, then purple, and
right.
brown. So you want to
You could say
specify that
blue
in the
eyes.
prompt. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
specifying it in the prompt will help. Purple hair, we had to make it a little bit stronger. And so yeah, let's try this again. We're gonna hit generate.
Another quick thing, if you didn't like skulls, you could. This is where you can craft a negative prompt. Let's say you didn't like the skull
Oh, but
earrings, but you did like the
we've got a
earrings. You're
skull
like,
in there. Yeah.
oh yeah, you're prompting it that. But I guess you could do the inverse. If you
Yeah.
had an object in there that you didn't want, that's how you start to craft your negative prompt. I mean, that sounds obvious, but yes.
Let's interrupt this one, and then we can do something a little wilder.
Rocks in the community says I was Rocks with two X's says I was trying to make such stylized videos with video input
Video input.
today.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
We mentioned that earlier on. Video input just doesn't work. It's like it's very hard to use, and even the devs themselves in Deforum were like, "Yeah, we don't use that." Hybrid video was something that a community dev brought in. Really big name. Shout out to really big name.
Really big name, hell
We
yeah.
love you.
Thank you.
Because they made an incredible thing with hybrid video, and it's just what you should use. Like you should not
Yeah.
use anything else other than hybrid video. It's just the best way to get your video in.
And trying to get this image to image batch equally is not as good as this.
Yep. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. 100%. Okay, here's our oh, look at the laser. So because
Look,
we
yeah.
got it closer, the laser is coming through clearer now.
Look at that. That's actually super cool. I mean, look, it's like a 3D. I mean, this is
Yeah, yeah.
look, it's flickering a lot, but that's where the DaVinci Resolve deflicker comes in. That's where,
Prompting,
in
you can fix it with
prompt, yeah.
prompting and yeah,
But
nailing
look,
your
this is the type
settings.
of stuff that Wonder Studio, replacing your model with an avatar, like this is it. I mean, you don't need.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like we have so much control right now, and it's just amazing. So
We did
glad we did this. Yeah.
unfortunately stop short of eating spinach. But
But that's fine.
but that's fine. All right, so let's do Roman. Uh,
FYI, just let me follow up quickly. So Zanium, you remember when I was saying like the Mario video with the tutting and the video game Mario and Luigi? Let's say you had a model that was trained, very specifically on Mario and Luigi and Nintendo and video game art, and then you brought in a video that was really high def and it had that same. So you can get warp fusion results, is what I'm trying to say. Not
mhm.
perfect, but like close enough that you have control over it now without getting into Google Colab and messing with Kyber and messing with that other app. And I don't know. I mean, I know
Love
they
this
look kind.
frame. Look at
Wow.
her. This is frame.
Mm.
She's like, sorry.
It's like I love the hair though. I mean, the hair is
Yeah,
super rad.
getting a little weird here.
I'm
Love it.
I'm a sucker for lavender. I love purples.
Yeah, yeah, same, same. It looks fun. At least it's got more like here. It looks like she's been Botox. Like her facial expression is not changing at all. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more expression in there. Um, yeah, all right. People love the video. That's great. There is a ton of potential in this technique. You can really do a lot with it. You can do silly stuff. You can do amazing stuff. And then, okay, keep in mind, we have not even used camera controls. So what I did is I will show just some quick videos. I took, if you remember the video I had earlier, here's some control net tests. I'll throw those in there. But if you remember this, I had the Mando speeder one.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to point to another video
I
where I
love how
actually,
it turns into a book for a second. It's so cool.
yeah. Now this one, um, I actually used some motion controls to turn it on the y-axis. So you can see that it's like sort of shifting from right to left, and everything's moving across, including the moon, funny enough. And I was thinking, like, this moon that's here, I'm like, oh, what if I did a treatment to that like Mando and just put the moon up there and then control netted the moon in? Like, that would
Exactly.
work perfect,
Hmm.
right? So you can kind of set the stage, like you can do your like props if you want.
I want
Um,
to live in this world, by the way. It's fantastic.
yeah, yeah, it's great. We've got some beautiful artists here on the prompt. I think this was like Jean Giraud and Roger Dean. You can see some of these
Mobius.
Mobius, which is John Giraud, same guy.
Oh, right,
Um,
right.
uh, but Mobius, yeah.
Idiot.
Yeah, and so like the idea here is just that it's got some variance.
That's
And
cool.
now I will point out a little advanced technique that we've got here, and these are linked in our docs in the Deforum section. But
Pro tip alert, pro tip alert.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
this is where you can start to get some really fine control over those settings. So like I used this to get some little variance on the XY axis in the 3DX. It when you put this in, it actually writes out all the frames for you here. And you can either copy this formula here, or you can just copy the entire thing here and it will give you that variance. And we'll actually test that out in our, oh, marble statues looking
sick.
amazing. Oh,
So cool.
that looks awesome. Didn't expect it to have this like brown marbling, but I love it. And that's
It,
because we're using the marbling arts embedding, which is one of my favorite embeddings to test because it's just like so powerful and strong immediately.
yeah,
Um,
so I was going to say, like, this is I love that we kind of reset this idea of just copying and pasting negative and positive prompts and going very slowly, one at a time. Now
mhm.
at this point you get this like statue with marble, and let's say you're like, oh, I don't like that style of marble, I want this black marble. That's where you would start to kind of positive and negative prompt to dial in what you really want to look at. Because I've seen so many people just grab that first prompt from Deforum, change it up a little bit, grab a copy pasta from Civet, and then run it. And they're like, well, I don't know what I'm getting here. Which is why I recommend just deleting everything and making it the most simple prompt you can, and then start adding to it. Again, science, the scientific approach to this program is really helpful, I found. It's time consuming, but it really gets us here.
I'm excited to see what this one looks like. So sometimes the previews don't update. Again, there are some issues when people are using this service in foreign countries where there isn't a route back to our US servers that is fast. So it's something that we're aware of and working on to get like a little bit better network routing capability. But you may find that the UI disconnects or anything like that. If that happens, you always want to check your log files. So when making really long videos or training models, just make sure that you're keeping an eye on this log file here. Um, Keep in mind, at the moment, multiple instances will write to the same place, but you can see here we've got this going through and it's still working. This is our art germ anime gal one. So it's going through, and here the canny, you can see the control net taking effect.
I posted something in channel real quick.
Oh
This is
yeah.
from my local latest Deforum build, so it's not Run Diffusion. And you can see this is also possible on Run Diffusion, but it's you're going to get better once we update all the new once you guys update the new system. But anyway, this is using canny, and it's using face pose and depth.
Hmm.
And what it's also doing is that it's oscillating the strength. And so that's why you're getting very interesting shifts, and then it chills out. Interesting shifts, and then it chills out. And anyway, I really like this test.
Yeah, definitely. You can see a little mini Thanos popping in at the end there. Love
Yep,
it.
yep.
Uh, that is really like an incredible quality. And did you deflicker this?
No, that's just right
Just
out of,
raw,
yeah,
raw.
just raw.
Incredible, right? Because like look at the consistency and like the armor plating.
Yeah. This is
Like,
protogen model,
yep.
protogen photoreal. And then also think about it, like, since you have the depth map, you can just cut out the background and push this character forward against any background you want. Even though I like this kind of cool,
Yeah.
like, noisy thing, you can really clean it up and make it insanely accurate.
Yep, absolutely. Oh yeah, No Man's Sky terrain generation is like that
Right.
other video. Yeah.
Hmm.
That was a question about the other videos. It's funny, I actually put No Man's Sky and Borderlands cell shading and stuff like that in there. So
Maybe we run Mario after on this one. Right after this, we interrupt. Just do like Mario and Luigi video game character, red hat plumber type of thing, and see if it
well, we
if
did
you want.
the Popeye
Yeah, I
one,
guess
so
so. Yeah,
that's kind of similar idea. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so the lasers coming through. We're laser scanning
this is
this.
good. I
Yeah, I
mean,
like this. So what I think is, I mean, this is really amazing quality. What I'd like to see is another seed, but let's also get a little of this action in here. So it's rotating X, Y. It could totally mess it up, right?
no,
If
no,
you,
no, no. But before you do it, I think just quickly so we can, because it's. I think this is a very cool tool. But let's just tell people what all the little settings are and what to click
yep,
first.
yep, absolutely. So
Yeah.
first we're looking at the FPS, 25 frames.
Right.
We're just going to do like 200 frames of this.
Right.
And BPM, if you want to set the music, you set the music. But we're going to
Okay.
leave it like
And then
this.
the sync rate. Just explain to people what the sync rate is.
Yep, this is like your beats per minute, like how often the oscillation will happen, how often it goes from one cycle from top to bottom. So in this case, we want it to kind of be going back and forth. Here you can see 200 frames on our
Yep.
bottom axis there. So this is going to do like a few of these, which is what we want. There's a lot of other things you can enable. You can modulate it by adding a secondary wave to it and combining them, but we're just going to leave this for now. And you can also add noise. One thing I will say that's important is the amplitude. So here we're going from 0 to -1, and then back to 0, and then back to 1. So the amplitude can be very important. I'm going to actually lower this to 0.5 to get a little bit more subtle camera movement. It's still going to be pretty wild, actually, but maybe we'll do
So,
0.3.
yeah, basically, like if you're trying to schedule noise, it's going to be a different amplitude. And if you're going to schedule something like a camera move or zoom, it's going to be a different amplitude.
Yeah,
So it's a very powerful tool, but if you like plug in just the default, copy pasta again, you might copy in something like 1.5 for the strength, and then all of a sudden your animation is going to be total junk. So it's important to like make sure your amplitude and the amount of variance in this thing is logical for the field that you're inputting. I hope that makes sense.
yeah. So we're going to copy the formula. You can also copy the frames. I'm just going to do the formula. You can click the button, but it won't grab the frame number. In this case, I'm just grabbing the entire frame, and we're going to put this in keyframes motion, and we're going to go not towards away, not up down. We're going to go left right. So 3D Y axis. We're going to try this out. It's going to go left to right. So hopefully we'll see the statue sort of move left to right. But who knows? Could be total chaos. Otherwise, I think prompt wise, there's nothing we really need to add or remove here. It looks
Do,
fantastic.
do you want to just add a control net to this one, Canny? Since it,
It'll take a little longer to generate, so I
okay,
actually don't think so. I mean, look at how stable that is.
I
Like
love it. I mean,
we could
again,
get it a little bit more stable, but in this case, it's like, I mean, the nose is mouth. Look at that. It's like great. There's
I
no
think it's
need
great
for it.
with
And it,
deflicker. That would be crazy.
yeah, and it's important to realize this. Like you might be like wanting to use the control net to like make it look like 100% perfect, but in regards to like the time of generation, how long it's going to take you to render the video, all these things are
Totally.
in there.
Hmm.
And if you're on run diffusion, hey, you got to make best use of your smart timer, right? So you may not need control net to get a really high quality style transfer, and that's just important to realize. We've got our video. All right, let's
Boom.
see the new one that we've generated here and see what came through. Oh, okay, there we go. I love the goddess skull earrings and the fact that she has leaves in her.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
So good.
Consistency is awesome. Hair is purple. Eyes are purple now, right? Because we specified those. She has a really cool forehead tattoo. Gotta
I
love
think
that.
the key here with this whole thing that we're doing today is just that when people jump into these tools, you just have a baseline. right? Because typically
Mhm.
you could throw the same setting together and click one wrong checkbox, and this will be mush and like total like garbage. So that's what's so cool is that this first or second test is almost immediately great. And then you iterate a few more times, and then you've got exactly what you want. And if you're good enough at like post processing, you can cut out the character, cut out the background, recomposite it, deflicker it, retime it, and do a little bit of like color correction. And you have like a super high quality, you know, I don't want to say Hollywood level, but like who cares about that? You have a very cool
Yeah.
video that you can use. And then if you upscale it and you can, if you have enough processing power to upscale, you can do 2K, 4K, pretty much any type of character. You could be this character in this video right here by just shooting yourself. That's a terrible way to, by filming yourself
Yeah.
using an iPhone against any type of background that's clean, a clean plate, like a red background, green, blue, white, etc., and make this video. And you don't even need to download anything. So
Yep, it's a really powerful technique. I will say, just again, we're working on fixing the upscaling in the platform. It will be ready with the new version. We're very excited for the new version. It will have Deforum Controlnet. It will have Controlnet 1.1, which will be very exciting. There's some incredible tools in there. So keep in mind, right now it's working great. We try to keep it on a stable version as much as we can, so we don't jump into the latest updates all the time, just because it makes it a little easier for us on the support side. But just know that we are always working on bringing the latest tools to you guys and gals and others and aliens and whoever else is out there. We love you guys so much, and we really want to just like give you the best tools to make things, because yeah, the capability of this platform is incredible. What you can make is incredible. This is like something that, we just sat down and, thanks to the knowledge of Level Bevel, other community members, and the platform, we were able to make something just like immediately that's awesome. I like this one. I called it Kali Priestess because of the weird skull earrings, right? Um, but
gorgeous.
you could keep going. You could do a longer video. Each one of these can just be like a shot. Um, I think because of this is 0.65. What did we have our image? Yeah, this was a little bit high. So that's why we got the goofy looking first frame here, where she's like, not quite looking very Indian in this shot, but more like the input video. And so by reducing that, we get it a little closer every time. All right. Yeah.
If you wanted to, just if anybody's thinking about it, you're like, okay, this is a kind of beautiful character. Let's say you wanted something more realistic. You could do something like 50-year-old Indian grandmother, and it will probably give you a character that's a lot more, like a real person.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Um,
Let's
couple of pro. Can I
try.
throw some pro tips in here?
Yeah, a
Just
different mode.
pro opinions about things. So we were discussing behind the scenes whether we wanted to do a guided images tutorial today and or in the future. But I have to say, given that this works, it's way more powerful than guided. I feel like guided is one of those things that if you want to do something like a guided images video and put it into this technique, you could theoretically render again a competing platform, but like let's say a couple of frames from Midjourney, you could bring them into something like Runway and stitch them together like just with that weird AI morph, like frame 1, frame 10, frame 1, morph them, and then bring in that video into this. And all of a sudden you have a video that can be hybridized and do all this cool stuff without having to create, like you can kind of get in. So that's a quick way to do like a outside guided images workflow without doing guided images, which is really, really difficult, I think, to get consistent results.
Yeah, I think the guided image thing is sort of interesting. Sort of like prompt interpolation is interesting. This mode here that we don't really use at all. So there is some cool stuff that you can do with it, but it's like very much a more creative, like wild technique. One of the things that people complain about with guided images all the time is like it's taking too long to get my image in. It's not giving it, like it's not showing up. And the reason why is all these little things that we just showed you on strength, on like the hybrid thing, you have to do for like guided images as well. It's like it's hard to nail down exactly what will bring that image in. If you think about like it's going through the video and you're trying to bring out like suddenly shift it to like a whole new image, you have to change all the settings in those keyframes to make it pop out. So I think like hybrid is actually probably easier.
Way easier. Yeah.
And yeah, can get better results. So
I
let's
mean,
see.
just to
Let's hold on here. I know we can talk about this stuff for ages and ages, but I really want to see kind of what this 3D looks like. So I'm going to hit interrupt here. Um, we've run it for gosh, how long? Not very long, but let's see if like when you're doing like crazy camera movements and stuff, like just see if it's working or not. 'Cause it does it
That's actually, this is rad because now you've introduced a bit of a camera wobble. It looks more realistic.
because of the noise that I put on it, maybe. Yeah. It's a little bit more jittery, I would say, but it is moving slightly. Like you can see that the statue's sort of like moving to the side a little bit. So the
Uh,
amplitude's maybe not that much. Like maybe we'd increase the amplitude a bit,
but I
but
think didn't you
working.
put this in the X camera or Y camera? You didn't put this in
Yeah.
the strength.
No, no, I put it in the Y camera, yeah. But
Yeah, so
I had amplitude at like 0.3, so it wasn't that strong.
no, I actually personally like it. I know that you're gonna add some more to it, but I think like this is like if you were filming somebody with an iPhone,
Mm,
your hand would be moving slightly, so it's a bit of a handheld camera move,
yeah.
and it takes something that doesn't have a handheld camera wobble and introduces it on top of it. So it's a very powerful technique to get the baseline hybrid video, but then to add motion to it later.
Mhm. All right, just checking if anyone's still there. We're gonna add a mullet in. I think like this is kind of a good place to end it. We will take any questions. I'm gonna stop the stream. So thanks everyone for tuning in and watching our video on hybrid video and ControlNet. We're really excited to see the stuff you create on the platform. So please like, comment, subscribe to our platform for more awesome stable diffusion automatic 1111 videos, and stay tuned for updates on the Run Diffusion platform. Let me stop this
Did
broadcast.
we just change animation forever?
Oh yeah, we got to do the thumbnail.